It's because mantras and affirmations and positive vibrations are always important to remind us about what we want to do. Even if it's a matter of, for example, looking in the mirror and looking at a positive quote, it does help because it reminds us. I know certain songs, and I don't know how I learned the lyrics. I didn't Google them, I didn't write them down, but I know the lyrics. How is that? Because somehow, I would listen to the song over and over again, then it penetrates my subconscious mind, and before I know it, I am singing and repeating the lyrics. Advertising creates a demand for things that we don't even need, but we end up buying them. Back in the good old days, I tend to say from time to time, some of the younger members of the audience may find this rather hilarious, but the cassette tape, some of us won't laugh because we can relate. The cassette tape, this is pre-CD, pre-DVD, pre-MP3. The cassette tape that you would slip into your Walkman or into your car at that time. I don't know if you, like myself, you would listen to a tape so often that you would even pause when there's a glitch in the tape itself. You would know when the song ended, when it turned over, and you continue where it was. If you recorded a certain song from the radio or the wireless, this is before we had internet, etc., for the younger members of our audience, right? And I see some of them rolling their eyes in wonder, like a history lesson, as to what is this man referring to. But we'll talk about this afterwards in the Q&A. Whenever the cassette tape would stick at certain points, or I record something from the radio, and sometimes you would hear someone talking in the background before you press record and play. I wouldn't even remember the conversation, like CSI or NCIS, who was saying what and where they were, and then go back into the song again, in my own unvocally trained way. But the point is, repetition is the key to mastery. And so what we expose ourselves to as we work, etc., is so important, because we then start to practice what we have put into our minds, what we have absorbed in the subconscious realm, and it becomes our reality. If you don't ask, you will never get. Now, how many of us want something, know somebody can help us, but just didn't ask? 1, 2, 3, okay, 5. Yeah? A consensus. You know the person is willing to help, but you feel embarrassed, ashamed, you feel as if you might be burdening them. But believe me, they ask you regularly. They ask you like clockwork for things, for money, for time, for help, regularly. But you feel as though, I don't want to impose on them, you know, they're having a hard time as well. But they don't hesitate to ask you. They ask you as if you are an ATM, as if you are the cash machine, as if you have 28,000 hours in your day and they only have 24. Can you do this? Will you do this? Can you buy this? Can you do this? Yeah, year in, year out. But in your soul, you feel as though it's too much to ask them every once in a while. Now, not that we do things to get things back, but reciprocity is healthy every once in a while. Every once in a while, it's good to give, to get, and get to give. It's called a win-win situation. I do something for you, you do something for me. We're human beings. It's good to feel appreciated. And appreciation is one of the 8 principles of self-empowerment I talk about in my book. The whole thing about giving thanks, of feeling valued. So when we ask for things, when we see that someone is able to aid us as we strive towards being successful, I'm suggesting that there's no harm. And having it as a cultural value is important also, because it takes a village to raise a child. It's when we come together. If we have 5 different pieces of sticks, as a gentleman who I knew as an elder in Jamaica growing up, he told his 5 sons, he gave them 5 pieces of stick and he said to them, break one. They broke each one. Then he put all 5 together and said, try to break this. They couldn't break it. The principle is, even though we do well on our own, we can do much more together. Everybody with me so far? Okay. Moving along very quickly. It's when we're afraid to do certain things that they don't happen. And this is the other part of what we mentioned before, whereby we are embarrassed or afraid that if we ask the person, then it won't happen. So when we know what we want, even if it appears impossible, even if it appears as if it is almost utopian, as if it can never be done, this is the mindset of greatness. Now, I'm sure some of us are familiar with this gentleman here, right? We know who he is?
Yeah.
Who is he? All right. And what does he do for a living?
He's the President of the United States.
Thank you, sir. Now, to this young member of our audience, this man being the President of the USA is a natural progression, right? He worked hard, he won the election, he won. Natural progression. To some of us in the audience, this was impossible. Am I right? It wouldn't happen in our lifetime. To some of us, going back in our racial DNA, to centuries ago, to 400 years in the Middle Passage, this was but a dream. Not even a dream. Being culturally sensitive here. Irrespective of our background, our culture, our race, our history, etc., the principle is that for someone of Barack Obama's background and hue to be sitting in this position as leader of the free world, whether we perceive that or not, the fact that it has happened, whether he was selected or elected, whatever our views are on the subject matter, the point is, it has happened. There was a time when people wondered whether man could ever go to the moon. And there are schools of thought that still debate whether this actually happened. Whatever our schools of thought are, or opinions are on this, it is generally accepted that man has gone to the moon. At once, it was almost utopian, it was impossible. But NASA, over a few years, made that happen. What is it that you want for yourself, which at this stage seems impossible, as if it could never be done to other people, but in your heart and soul, you still feel it? I'm suggesting, go after it. The mere fact that you thought it and believe it and see it in your mind means that it is possible. Obama did it. They went to the moon. Whether we believe it or not, there is evidence to suggest that it happened. And I'm suggesting that that is their reality. That's someone else's reality. What is your reality? What is it that you see in your mind that you want to achieve? And why haven't you yet achieved it? And this is why, when we have achieved it, when you have made that small step towards your goal, listen, I enjoy coffee. Whatever your thoughts might be about the issue, I enjoy coffee. I see myself as a coffee connoisseur. I have anchored the feeling of joy and success by rewarding myself with a cup of the finest coffee in the world. Blue Mountain Jamaica coffee. It's not an advert for the Jamaica Tourist Board, I hasten to add. However, those who sell coffee and share coffee on the markets, etc., have confirmed that it's the best in the world. So I'm not just being nationalistic here or bipartisan in any shape or form. The point I'm making, however, is that I have anchored rewarding myself with a cup of Blue Mountain coffee in a relaxed environment whenever I do something successful. So I anchor coffee with success. What I'm suggesting is that when we have achieved something, reward ourselves. Reward ourselves. Celebrate what we have done. It doesn't mean going out and buying a car and flying off to the motherland or the Caribbean or New York. No, what I'm saying is whatever you can afford that's of value to you, even if it's a matter of giving yourself 15 minutes of peace and quiet from the family, taking a walk in your favorite park, you know, enjoying your favorite meal, watching your favorite film, no matter what it is, celebrate each time as you move forward. Dr. Naim Akbar, a great, in my opinion, African-American psychologist, talks about the importance of celebrating our achievements. It's what many Rastafarian brethren refer to as the liberty, the joyfulness, being fully present. In some schools of thought, they refer to it as mindfulness, being present and enjoying the fruits of our labor. It's not about the giant steps that happen, as Confucius tells us. It's simply about the longest journey beginning with the smallest step. So each time we move forward, each time we achieve something, I'm suggesting that we take time to make sure that we celebrate. Les Brown, great African-American motivational speaker, has a saying. You know, sometimes somebody is known for a particular saying, right? Or a particular sound, right? And Les Brown always talks about being hungry, staying hungry. He was here recently and I was blessed to be in his presence at one of his talks. And he talked about the importance of being hungry. What does this mean? Whenever we achieve something, don't get complacent. It's on to the next one. Because if we stay where we are and believe that this is it, this is the apex of our achievement, this is the plateau, this is the highest height, then where else is there to go? After you reach the highest heights, where else do you go? Only down. So what I'm suggesting to us is that the staircase to your success, my success, and our success, globally, internationally, nationally, and equally as important, personally, is that we remain hungry. Want more. Not the same as being greedy. Want more for yourself. Want more for your family. Want more for your community. Because if we do not try to expand the boundaries and erase and eradicate the limitations, then this is what happens. Complacency. The consequences of complacency is that you start to fall down, because as we said earlier on, when you're at the highest height, after that, there's nowhere else to go but down. We're going to take a brief break just now, because when we come back, we'll be looking at the toolkits. Fine, we have the mindset now, and we've shared ways in which we are able to think about success. But how do we then do it? Because it's fair enough to talk, but talk is cheap. It's about action and manifestation. One of my favorite social philosophers is a gentleman called Mutabaruka. If you've never heard of him before, I suggest you Google him and tune into his program. I'm not able to advertise the station just now for purposes of sponsorship. But my point is this. He talks about the fact that prayer works when you pray and get up and do a work. That conjunction "and" is so important. In isolation, prayer or meditation or talking or simply pontificating about what should be, in and of itself, dialogue is good. It's very important to communicate and act. So we reason and we function. We talk and we act. We meditate and we do. Always in correlation. So when we get back after the very brief 10-minute break, we reconvene at 5 minutes past 8 to spend a few moments, enjoying each other's company, get some drink, etc. When we reconvene, we'll be looking simply at the toolkit of how to go about doing this. And finally, in part 3, we'll be looking simply at ourselves. How to make that first impression. Because first impressions really count. How we appear, how we come across, irrespective of what we know and do, is very important because we live in a social world with other people. We're not hermits on an island on our own. So the way we function with other people is very, very important. So thank you so much for your time. We'll convene in 10 minutes.